Coming up next on The Voice of Alabama Politics, our guest today is Huntsville Mayor Tommy Battle. Also, the V-Team takes a look at the inaugural address of Governor Robert Bentley. And Speaker of the House Mike Hubbard is channeling convicted Governor Don Siegelman. Help me, Obi-Wan Siegelman. You're my only hope. All this and much, much more coming up next on The V.
The Voice of Alabama Politics with your host, Bill Brett, and the V-Team with Claire Austin, Susan Britt, Jack Campbell, Baron Coleman, Charlana Spencer, and special reports with Jonathan Barbie. Now, the #1 political show in Alabama, The V.
Welcome to The Voice of Alabama Politics, where we tackle the tough issues so you have the hard facts. I'm your host, Bill Britt, and today we're coming to you from Huntsville, from the Hudson Alpha Institute. Welcome all.
Good morning. Glad to be in North Alabama.
Beautiful driving in. The city is so spectacular. Really impressive, isn't it?
It is. It's clean. It's beautiful. The roads are in good shape. Coming into this industrial park, it's a world-class facility. It's great.
Yeah, it's a real gem for the state of Alabama. And as I mentioned, or I was discussing earlier, you know, people in the West Coast consider this the Silicon Valley of the South. And
well, it's really done a great job here. A lot's changed since you used to live here, hasn't it?
It is. And when I was a little girl and used to come through here, this was all cotton fields. There was nothing here but as far as you could see but cotton. And now it's all these beautiful buildings, and they're getting so much done here as far as research goes.
A lot of high-tech industry here and more to come. Tommy Battle will be our guest today, and he has done a fabulous job of helping this city to grow.
Absolutely.
We were all there at the inauguration of Governor Robert Bentley. He had a list of things on his mind. He's got 4 years to get them done. Primarily, he talked about the need for prison reform, fixing the hole in the budget, and health care. Susan, is this a wish list, or can Governor Bentley get these things accomplished?
The way it stands right now between Governor Benton and the legislature, it would seem like it's more than just a wish list, simply because he's going to have the bills introduced in the legislature in order to be able to get anything done. Now, the last 4 years, he's had a problem getting them to pay attention to even the budgets he sends over. So unless he's willing to really get strong on these issues and say, listen, you've got a favorite bill, I'm going to veto, I'm going to take away your economic development in your area, or start to threaten them, I don't think he's going to get anywhere with it.
Well, I think, you know, in a little difference here. I mean, most all these members were here elected 4 years ago. You've got Senator Ora, chairman of General Fund, who's from North Alabama. You've got Tripp Pittman, who's chairman of Education Fund. We've got tremendous holes, particularly in the general fund budget, where you've got the boiling pot at corrections, you've got the problems at Medicaid. So then those two big entities or agencies gut the actual budget. There's no way that they cannot deal with these budgetary issues. I believe Senator Cam Ward is already committed to the prison reform. They've been working towards this. So he's going to have to work hand in glove, particularly with the leadership in the Senate, to make sure these things get done where he can have a good legacy.
Baron, the thing is, he could have given the same speech 50 years ago.
It seems to be the same thing every 4 years. These are the things that continue to plague Alabama. We have a constitutional requirement for a balanced budget. So there's a 100% chance a balanced budget comes out of the state legislature. They've had 4 years to try to get it right. They tried to borrow their way out of a hole, hoping the economy turned around and jobs came in and everything leveled itself out. It didn't work out that way. And now they're left with really tough decisions. They can't go back and raid the trust fund again. They already tried that. People are not going to tolerate that one more time. They're going to have to figure out a way to bridge this gap. And the governor is going to have to work with the legislature, but the legislature is going to have to work with the governor.
Is he willing to risk any of his popularity on making the tough choices?
That stands to be seen. You know, he's very popular. He does have a very large war chest as well, with nothing to do with that, but work toward campaigns and stuff. So he likes being popular, but I think he likes his legacy even more.
Well, that's more. He wants to go down in history as one of the best governors for the state of Alabama. We have got critical issues that absolutely have not been addressed in 25 plus years. If he's the man that's going to do it, he's going to have to get down in the gutter with them, and they're going to have to really work hard to do the right thing. And I think that we do have the right statesmen, in these bodies that can do that.
We certainly wish the governor all the best, and we hope that he can get this. It's just he's going to have to get tough and take the reins, I fear. Selma has been in the news because of the film. Oprah Winfrey was down here. It's also been in the news because it's the 50th anniversary of the march. Been pros and cons, hasn't it, Barron? I mean,
it has. President Obama has confirmed he's going to be here this March for the 50th anniversary, whether he comes into Montgomery. Who else comes? Do other former presidents come? A lot of people have been invited. The legacy of Selma is that it sort of kicked off, or it brought to a forefront, this civil rights demand, particularly in the South, but really all over the country. And it'll be interesting to see how it plays out over the next, not just year, but 2 or 3 years, looking back on this 50th anniversary, getting our way through the end of the Obama administration and into another presidency. I think it's a good thing that it's all going on right now.
Do you think it's good for the state, or?
Well, I mean, I think the fact that 2 or 3 weeks ago they unveiled the movie Selma, and I think there's been a lot of critics, saying that, particularly that President Johnson and Martin Luther King, that they had an adversarial relationship, which they did not. There's been some falsifies documents. It appears on that. But I think, yes, it puts a spotlight on Alabama, but I don't know if it's a great spotlight.
One of the things that the leader of the Black Caucus, Representative Dario Melton, said is that the second half of Martin Luther King's dream is still way off for most people, and that's economic prosperity for lower income whites and blacks. That was something that he wanted to focus on after the Civil Rights Act. Dario had a point there, didn't he?
He did, and there is an economic disadvantage in many ways, but it's not just in Alabama, it's nationwide. How we solve that, I'm not really sure. I know there are a lot of great thinkers out there that are really working on trying to get there, but I'm just not sure exactly how to tackle that issue.
You have a radio show. I think some of your folks weighed in on this issue. What was the general feeling out there?
Well, in Montgomery County in particular, the school numbers came out, the ACT test scores, not the high school, not the college admission test, but the high school college and career ready standard test. And it showed about only 3% of black students in Montgomery County were college and career ready when they left high school. But it also only showed about 45% of white students and Hispanic students were prepared. So it's an educational gap everybody in the state of Alabama is suffering from right now. It's not just 1 or 2 groups of people. I think statewide, only 13% of students statewide were college and career ready, according to this test, at the end of their high school career.
And really, education.
That's astounding.
Education is the pathway for a career out of poverty.
Yeah, you want to talk about getting Alabama out of the doldrums, getting the economy turned around. 87% of your students aren't college and career ready after high school.
We got about 30 seconds. Senator Greg Reed, who I know is a favorite of a lot of us here, he came out and did an editorial in the Alabama Political Reporter in which he urged his colleagues to listen to their constituents, follow their constituents' thoughts and heart, and govern that way. That's kind of a new thinking, isn't it, Claire?
Well, I applaud him for that because he is correct. And Senator Reed is a very strong, conservative, honest man. He's in a leadership position in the Senate. And if he can keep that mindset and everything out in the forefront, I think he'll be a tremendous leader.
I think he will.
And he is one of the statesmen that we refer to when we talk about statesmen in the legislature.
Okay, well, that's
He's a strong example.
That'll be the last word on that one. You're watching The V, the voice of Alabama politics. Coming up next, Huntsville Mayor Tommy Battle. Stay put.
The V is sponsored by Spot On Strategies Group.
Welcome to Alabama's newest entertainment destination, Wind Creek, Wetumpka. The perfect escape for date night, a getaway with your friends, or a relaxing poolside cocktail. Whether it's a day trip to enjoy the best steak in Alabama or a romantic weekend, the finest Southern hospitality is just a short drive away. Wind Creek, Wetumpka. Find your winning moment.
Welcome back to the V, the voice of Alabama politics. Our guest today is Huntsville Mayor Tommy Battle. Mayor, welcome.
Well, thank you. Welcome to our area.
Driving through Huntsville today was a spectacular delight. We lived here for a brief period 22 years ago. It's such a beautiful city with high growth. You have to be very proud.
We are very proud. You're sitting right here in Research Park, second largest research park in America. We tout ourselves as a smart place. In fact, that's the brand that we put on it with the chamber, a smart place to live, work, and play. And we have more degree professionals and engineers per capita than anywhere else in the U.S. And that brings about a community which is interested in education. We're interested in doing things and doing them well.
Well, you've had tremendous success as the mayor. Just over the last couple of years, the job growth here has been tremendous. Remington, 2,000 new jobs. Also 2,000 new jobs you just announced last week coming here with Polaris. Around the state, people are asking, what is the secret to his success?
The secret sauce there. It really is. You have to have a lot of elements put together to do this. You have to have an education system, and education drives your development. First thing people ask you when they come in is, what about your education system? Can you provide me career-ready, college-ready students out of your public elementary and high schools? Do you have a secondary college system that can provide trained technical workers? Do you have a four-year college that can provide for that and masters beyond that? That's one of the big questions. And then if we bring our executives here, will they want to put their kids in your schools?
Right.
So education is key, number one. Secondly, you've got to have an infrastructure. Right now we have an 18-minute average commute to and from work, which is probably one of the best average commutes in the nation for mid-sized cities. But that's one of the things that you have to keep up with on your infrastructure. When Polaris looked at us, they looked at our 10-year capital plan, and that 10-year capital plan lays out what we're going to spend money on roads, on infrastructure, on everything else over the next decade. And they were very impressed with what we had done there. And then your third thing is quality of life. I mean, you've got to have a good quality of life to attract the young professionals here.
Right.
And those young professionals are people who are job multipliers. They're the ones who come and they work in businesses, but then they start their own businesses and they start other businesses that become job multipliers and provide jobs for future generations.
I know you were talking about infrastructure, and you've worked closely with Governor Bentley. There's going to be a $250 million investment in the roads here. And how have you worked with the governor, and how will this $250 million impact the area and the citizens of Huntsville?
The key to that is that we're staying ahead of our infrastructure. So many cities and so many states have let themselves get behind in their infrastructure work. As long as you stay ahead of your infrastructure, so that as you bring in 2,000 jobs with Remington, or as you bring in 2,000 jobs with Polaris, you can keep that infrastructure in place to keep that 18-minute commute coming to work and from work. Those are very, very important. And to do that, you've got to work in partnership with the Alabama Department of Transportation, the governor's office, with your local legislative delegation. And one of the things that we recognized was that we needed to come up with a unique plan to do that. We had been through talking to some of the officials in ALDOT where they were cutting programs, in fact. And we came up with the idea that, we'll put more percentage-wise into it, but we want it to happen faster. We have to have those roads in place so that we can take care of the Remingtons and the Polarises that are coming in. We as a state, just as much as we as a city, have to work on infrastructure, because that's what drives your business to be able to locate here. If your business is located here, you have a job. If you're a job, you're a happy person. Happy people reelect mayors. Good things.
Yeah, that's a very good thing. Well, obviously, you've done a lot of things right. The folks of the city have done a lot of things right. The leadership. Your city, unlike the rest of the state, has a surplus. I mean, these lean times, the governor's talking about, we've got a big hole in the budget. Y'all have a surplus, plus you've had a AAA credit rating for the last 6 terms. I mean, that's impressive. Once again, I have to ask, how do you have a surplus and convince Wall Street that your credit is so good?
That's always a challenge. You have to work with Wall Street. Wall Street wants you to have that surplus because they want you to have something to fall back on in hard times. But also, one of the keys of this whole process is making sure that they understand that there's a plan. There's a plan for regenerating your infrastructure into jobs in the future. There's a plan for this quality of life that you're investing in, becoming new industry that comes to your community. The plan has to provide for an education system, and we're going to pay for that education system through what Wall Street provides us, but that education system is going to be used as a driver for more jobs for the area, for more economy, for a better economy. When you can do all three of those things and put them all together, it works well. And Wall Street understands that. That's why we're fortunate to get the AAA rating.
Another question that just came to mind, you're a Birmingham native, aren't you?
Right.
How did you come to be living here and be the mayor of Huntsville?
You know, I grew up in the cafeteria business, Britling's Cafeteria, back in the old days in Birmingham on 20th Street and 2nd Avenue North. And went off to school at Tuscaloosa, worked some in Mobile at the shipyards, and came back to Birmingham, was in with the Britling's Cafeteria group where my dad worked, and we worked together, and they decided to sell all the units off. So it was obvious that I better go find a job. And they said, well, why don't you look at Huntsville? We've got a unit up there. You can assume some of the debt we have, and you can own your own restaurant. And at age 24, I said, I'm not sure I want to do that. My dad looked at me and said, son, you, what do you have to lose?
Right, right.
Nobody will take your car. They won't want your clothes. You don't have anything else. And I thought about it over the weekend. I said, my dad's pretty wise. And came back to him and ended up at 24 years old, came to Huntsville, owned my own restaurant. It owned me more than I owned it.
Right.
But it was a great learning experience to be able to be the head accountant, the head manager, everything else that you have to do as you run your own business. Taught you a lot of lessons that you needed to learn in life. Learned how to work 7 days a week, 12 hours a day, and put the effort and the time into it to make a business something that was special.
And that's added to your success, I would think.
But being in the restaurant business makes the politics and the 7-day a week, 12-hour days in politics makes them very easy compared to the restaurant business.
I can imagine. Polaris, Remington, the growth in this city, that's a lot of bullets. Do you have any other bullets in the gun you're getting ready to pull? Any other announcements you might want to make?
We've got another 42 industrial projects that we're working on right now.
Wow.
And so it's a great time to be in Huntsville. And they're everything from 20 jobs to another 300, 400, 700 jobs, 1,000 jobs. So we've got some other things which will probably come to fruition, and we'll keep working on them. The key is keeping all those essential elements in place. Work your plan, make sure that plan works. It's a plan that works in the state, it's a plan that works in the city, it's a plan that kind of brings all the elements together to make you a prosperous community.
Well, you're known as a forward-thinking, get-the-job-done mayor. A lot of people are speculating about 2018. Any thoughts about running for governor?
Oh, listen, all my thoughts right now are 2016. Running for mayor again in the city of Huntsville. We'll have had 8 years behind us at that point, and have all the key elements in place to keep on making a success for this city. This has a lot of potential, a lot more potential that I think we can develop in the future.
Well, thank you for your service to the state, and thank you for coming on the show. We appreciate it.
Thank you. I'm glad to see you up here. Welcome to Huntsville.
We love Huntsville. It's a great place. You're watching The V, the voice of Alabama politics. Our guest today has been Mayor Tommy Battle. Stay tuned. We'll be right back with the V team.
The V is sponsored by MediaWorks Communications, quality video production and marketing services. The Locker Room, fine men's clothing.
I teach. I touch the future. I am AEA.
I keep the school clean every day for your children. I am AEA.
Congratulations on your scholarship. I help children make choices for college and careers. I am AEA.
We are AEA.
Welcome back to The V, the voice of Alabama politics. We're joined now by Jack Campbell.
Thank you, Bill. Glad to be here in Huntsville. It's a great town. Mayor Battle's doing a great job.
He really is.
And his predecessor, to her credit, Loretta Spencer, was also a great mayor. So they've had some good leadership up
They have.
They have, and it shows. It shows. It's always legacy, I guess. They've done a good job up here. One of the things that's happening with the Alabama Republican Party, they're going to have a new chairman this year. 2 women are the front runners, Mary Sue McClurkin and Terry Latham, 2 very qualified women, lifelong Republicans.
Absolutely.
Claire, what do you see happening there?
Well, I mean, Terry and her husband both been in the trenches of the state party for many years, working at the county level and the state level. She's very gregarious and very outgoing. They were all about at the inauguration, sponsoring, been on the phone from what I can see with all the committee members. Mary Sue has been one of the first Republican elected state representatives for many years out of the Jefferson-Shelby County area. I just think that whether this is true or not true, people are going to think she's aligned with Mike Hubbard. And if I were a betting man, I would give Terry Latham the edge, and I would think that she'd be elected the new party chairman.
Well, I've heard that a lot of the representatives are behind her, and that's for sure. I've heard the same rumor that she is the Hubbard candidate, the Bob Riley candidate, not the...
The political rumor is that she didn't get to become one of the education chairs in the House and was expecting to get it and did not run for re-election because of that. And so Mike Hubbard, to throw her a bone, said, okay, you run for chairman of the party, chairperson of the party, and I'll make sure my forces are behind you. Now, that's a rumor,
right.
But I think, and I've known Terry Latham for an awfully long time, and I think she's eminently qualified.
She has, like Claire said, been in the trenches. She's never sought public office or glory for herself. She's really worked quite a lot behind the scenes, hasn't she, Barron?
Yeah, I think they're both good Republicans. I mean, first and foremost, they've both been Republicans for a long time. They're both conservative people. They would both be decent chairmen. If it's true that Mary Sue McClurkin has the Mike Hubbard blessing, that sort of does her in for me. I don't know whether that's true or not.
With all the races that have been won throughout the state, it's solidly Republican now. What's the job of the chairman going to be, Jack?
Well, it's ceremonial, basically. You represent Alabama at national meetings. You should be someone who can pick up the phone and call people and raise money, and you're a person that is good management skills to run a staff and to really represent the party, very, with class and dignity. I think that's the main thing.
But, if we look out, y'all, in the future just a little bit, who knows what's in the crystal ball? This chairmanship also could have some treacherous times ahead of it if something goes wrong, legally in the judicial process, particularly with this grand jury and the indictments of the speaker. This job becomes a lot more difficult for whoever the newly elected chairman is.
It also becomes more difficult if the Supreme Court strikes down redistricting, doesn't it?
I don't think that'll happen. I think that'll probably be upheld. But yeah, it would definitely be more difficult in that situation. The major qualification, I think, is someone who can bring all the factions of the Republican Party together and bring everybody back home under one united banner. It's very, very fractured and divided right now.
Absolutely.
Anyone who's being pushed by Mike Hubbard or his consultants or his team of insiders is not going to be able to do that. And if that's Mary Sue McClurkin, she needs to, to me, be defeated and maybe give Terry the shot.
Well, Terry and Mary Sue both fine women as far as I know. I don't know either one of them very well. I'm with you. If there's a Hubbard candidate in there, we've got a skunk in the woodpile. That's just my personal opinion. I went back this week, and for the third time, I've read Storming the Statehouse. And I noticed how many references that Mike Hubbard has in his books to the criminal defense of Don Siegelman and others. He says that Don Siegelman came up with a complex theory of why it was a political motivation his prosecution was politically motivated. Jack, it sounded awfully familiar, didn't it?
You got to choose your words carefully because they can always come back and bite you in the behind, and I think that's what's happened. When he's critical of Siegelman for holding on to power arrogantly, there are a lot of people around this state that don't believe that Mike Hubbard should have been reelected as Speaker until this is resolved, and I happen to be one of those people, and I happen to have been a lifelong Republican, and I resent the fact that he's out there wielding that gavel during this session, and he's got that big black cloud over his head. I think it's disgraceful, and it sends a horrible message around the country.
The Dothan Eagle came out a couple weeks ago and said that he should step aside. There's rumor that AL.com might do that. A little too late, isn't it, Claire?
A little too late. But I mean, back to the whole storm in the State House, I think he just pulled a book. I mean, he just took a page out of Siegelman because he's probably done more, it appears, than what Governor Siegelman did. Yeah, I mean, as I think we have mentioned on the show before, Barron, from your home state at one time, the pro tem of Indiana in the House, you take South Carolina, North Carolina, somewhat similar accusations have happened to these speakers in their chambers, and they have had these indictments, and they have all stepped aside, and the leadership and the Republican parties have asked them to step aside, and I think it is quite interesting that that's not even been talked about here in Alabama.
No, I had several legislators come up to me and say, well, I voted for Mike because I had no choice.
Well, Bill Armstead has no guts.
You always have a choice, though, don't you, Jack?
You do have a choice. And Armstead told me personally, if Mike has these indictments, then I'm going to ask him to step aside, and he has been silent on the issue.
I think, didn't he say if he had more than 15? Was
Something
that the
like
case?
But he has 23, so it's a moot point.
We've got about 1 minute left, and I want to move on to this. There's been a lot of rumor about proposed legislation, and we've talked a little bit about this before, but I heard it even more from more serious folks that Hubbard is thinking about proposing legislation that will remove 2 Supreme Court justices, remove 2 people from the Criminal Court of Appeals, and 2 people from the Civil Court of Appeals. Barron, what is that all about?
It was the talk of the inauguration of most legislators, and I will have to say that is an egregious legislative act, and I pity the freshman legislator that takes that on.
Yeah, whatever poor sap gets tasked with carrying this bill is going to be tagged for a long time, and it's unfortunate. We have the most crowded criminal docket in the country among in the Alabama Court of Criminal Appeals, and to take 2 judges off of that is...
Well, I think you're probably right. We're going to have to leave it right there. You've been watching The voice of Alabama politics. You can catch us every day at alreporter.com and every Sunday on your ABC affiliate. Thanks for watching from the beautiful city of Huntsville. We salute you.